right, guys, so if you guys aren't familiar, this is Steve Kuclo, IFBB Pro. He recently placed 5th at the 2018 Arnold Classic and also just won the 2018 Indy Pro. So how you doing, brother?
Doing great, man. Been loving the stuff you've been putting out and appreciate, all the coverage you got. I think that's really good for the sport, good for the fans, and what you put out is really well thought out and very informative. And I think a lot of people, have questions about this sport, and like that's why I wanted to sit down and talk to you guys, and especially you, and put out some good stuff.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate it. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your hiatus that you took following the 2016 Olympia, correct?
Yes.
So 2016 Olympia, you took 16th place, and from that point on, you kind of disappeared for a little bit. We didn't really see you on stage until the Arnold Classic, so I wanted you to talk a little bit about why you took that hiatus and what you were busy doing.
There's a few reasons. I think the main reason was probably to make improvements on my physique. It just takes time, and every time you prep for a show and you're calorie restricted, you're not going to make the appropriate changes training wise. Your training suffers a little bit when you diet. So I train hard year round, and I'm not one of those guys that just train before a show. So I wanted to take the time to really let my body mature. I'm 32 now, which I've been competing since I was 18. And, I'm starting to see my body mature more. And, and they say, muscle maturity. And I think it's just conditioning of your muscle year after year. Some people are genetic freaks and have paper thin skin and can put muscle on like crazy. But, guys that like us, we got to work hard and, which I love to do, love to lift hard. So I took the time to really, put the effort in the gym. Make sure I was eating really good, and I think that was probably the biggest thing. And then we also had some business ventures going. My wife and I, we did, we were on Shark Tank, and we have the Booty Queen Apparel business that's really taken off, and that needed a lot of attention too. And any time when it comes to prep, you have to be 100%. It's all in, or you can't. You'll never be 100% on stage. So it was important to me to make sure that I had full focus, and I decided on the Arnold, and I haven't done it the Ohio Arnold yet as my target show, because to me that's one of the biggest shows. Never done it, and it gave me the time and the part of the year that I like to compete to kind of get ready to hopefully get that qualification for Olympia and then go into the O.
So on that same note, you were a firefighter, correct? And you're no longer a firefighter. So how big of a role did pro bodybuilding play in your decision to leave firefighting?
That was probably the primary reason. I think to be a pro bodybuilder, obviously that you have a window of opportunity, and I felt that I had to be all in order to capitalize on what was in front of me. I think being a firefighter, I love, and if anything, I miss the guys. They ask me all the time, "Do you miss it?" I said, "Well, I don't miss being up 24 hours and not sleeping and missing meals and stuff like that. And your cortisol is probably higher, and there's probably parts of the year and through my training throughout my years, I suffered a little bit because of that. Working for Dallas Fire Department, a very busy city, and it, I think the time that I have now to focus on being a professional bodybuilder, in running businesses and doing stuff with my wife and I, it really just allows me the time, and I was more stressed trying to manage time. So it's a good thing.
Right. So which aspect of your physique would you say needed the most improvement between 2016 and 2018?
I think one of the things was kind of balancing out my condition a little bit. And that was because my lower body always gets pretty hard and fairly quick when it comes to prep. It was just kind of conditioning my upper body more. And that came with that muscle maturity and kind of that time training. And I felt like I filled out some areas a little more that, were maybe a little bit behind. I think one of the things that I hate this word, but I kind of pride myself on with my physique is I'm pretty balanced and I'm pretty symmetrical. So I don't have any glaring, like, super strong points, like, oh, this guy's like all arms or whatever. But I don't feel like I have any super weak points. But I think I wanted to fill out a little bit through my back and chest, and I was able to accomplish that. And I know I still I think we're our hardest critics as bodybuilders. So we have to continue to always improve and always work on striving to get better.
So one of the things that I see in the comment section the most about your physique is your calves. People seem to think you have these great calves. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about your calf training, how many days a week, your favorite exercises, whatever.
You know what? Like, it was kind of funny because I trained calves throughout my early bodybuilding career regularly, and genetically I have gifted calves. My mom's side, the Polish side of my bloodline, has big calves, so they're genetically one of the body parts that's just kind of there for me. But obviously, you train them, they're going to get better. And then I went a while where I didn't really train calves, and then this year I started working with Gina Davis as my trainer, giving me my workouts. And she's like, "You're going to go start training your calves again." And I'm like, "Okay." So I hit them twice a week. I usually hit them like after a body part, say after arms or after something that's not super taxing. I'll do maybe 6 or 8 sets twice a week now, and they're growing again, which I see them and I'm like, oh, they look kind of cool because they always seem like they're pumped because I'm training them now more frequently. But I think calves are something that's neglected in the sport, and I think it's definitely something that completes a physique. But it's cool to have some big calves too.
Yeah, definitely. So what would you say is the number one thing you changed to bring your conditioning to the level that it was at the Arnold Classic? Because I got to say, you were one of the best conditioned guys on that stage, and that was certainly a standout point for you. So what would be the number one thing you switched up or that you could attribute that to?
I felt that was one of the things I needed to improve and bring to the stage in order to improve my placing. Because, I felt like I have the tools to make it all work. And I think the biggest thing that I did this prep, it's very similar to what I've done before working with George Farah. He really is in tune with my body. And if I was to prep myself, it's what I tell people, like George does what I would do if I was to prep myself. So I'm very confident and very trusting in what he tells me. But he's very good at taking me to have enough food without overfeeding me and then not underfeeding me where I just get flat and then you're trying to play catch up through your diet. So he plays that fine line of just enough calories to kind of hold you above water. And then because obviously the goal when you're prepping is to try to maintain all this muscle we put on and reduce the body fat. And that's everybody's goal. And I think the trickiest thing to do when it comes to the sport. But one of the other things was that last week, the peak week. I think a lot of people kind of depend on that last week. But for me, I always felt like I was ready going into the last week. But I never really pulled the trigger enough the last, I'm going to say 5-6 years of my bodybuilding career to really say eat enough to get on, because you get a little bit mental, you get a little bit kind of, man, I don't know if I should eat all this. It's not, I haven't been eating this much in my prep. And when you're the last few days, your body's just, your metabolism's racing. You actually, in a body that's 275, 280 pounds, you really have to feed the muscle because it's going to be burning it, but two, you're trying to store glycogen, you're trying to fill up and fill out, as they say. And it just took so much food that I said, Thursday, Friday going into the Arnold, I said, you know what? I said, let's go for broke. I said, I'm eating my ass off. And I said, we're going to, and I did. I mean, I ate probably, the most food I did going into the show. And it really helped my body pop. I think, I was finally full, and the fuller I am, the harder I am. If I'm flat, I look like I'm not in shape. And I've always felt like I've been in pretty much stage-ready condition almost every show. But I think that fullness was lacking. And if that lacks on me, I look flat. And I look like, oh, he's not in shape, So that's kind of one of the things on me that made the biggest difference.
So that was your first Arnold, Ohio. What did you think when you saw that lineup going into the show? One of the most competitive lineups, arguably ever, at that Arnold. I mean, were you discouraged when you saw who was competing, or?
It's doing the Olympia before several times. It was just like, okay, this is an Olympia quality lineup. There's the top 5 guys from Olympia almost were there, and it really, if anything, it made me even work harder. Like not kind of going in and saying, okay, I could lock in a top 5 or I could lock in a top 3, no problem. Like, and I don't think I would have the tendency to neglect or back off my training at all, but it definitely pushed me knowing, guys like Dexter and Rowley and William and Cedric were all going to be, in the mix. It made me, make sure I was going to be 100%.
So how did you feel about your placing? I think you could have placed a little bit higher, honestly.
I'm with you. I think a lot of people are with you.
Yeah.
I'm happy with the placing. I think, I love getting. I think one of the things that really drives me as a bodybuilder, when you kind of go through all this prep and you get on stage, I really love kind of battling it out on stage, getting in that call out, and getting through the poses. And I mean, it's grueling because I mean, you're up there, the lights are hot. Everybody's depleted and dehydrated, and everybody's kind of hurting. But to me, it's like, who's got enough heart? It's like at that point, it's heart. It's not necessarily who's the best. It's like, man, who's ready to pose and give it your all, squeeze your hardest. And to me, that's what like one of the most enjoying things to getting out competing is that. So getting that first call out was huge for me. I was just super excited and just happy that I was able to get that call out. And I'm not really upset at all in a bad way to say I should have placed higher. All those guys are amazing physiques and looked great, but I know that next year I'm just going to keep working my way up and eventually get to the top.
So the Indy Pro, man, what made you decide to do that show? It's a show that no one's really ever heard of before. It's the first year they were doing this show. What made you decide to go ahead and jump in that show and pick up the win?
Right. I thought about the Arnold Australia, and we were tossing that one around, and I think just financially to get over there, it was just going to be very expensive to fly to Australia and spend like a week out there and stuff. So we just decided, what's next in the lineup, and it's kind of lack of better words, it kind of sucks that there's not a lot of pro men open bodybuilding shows.
I agree.
I think from like the Arnold to Olympia, there's maybe about 7 or 8 qualifying shows. So it definitely puts a limit to what you can do and be able to qualify. So you have to be strategic, in my opinion, of what you need to do lining out your shows. And even as an amateur, I tell people this, if you could do shows within 3, 4, 5 weeks of each other, you're in shape, you're not kind of dragging out that condition, you're not trying to hold a condition. If anything, each couple weeks you can get a little bit better. And that's what I felt I did for the Indy, was just kind of tweak a few things, just polish up. I feel like I was even able to improve condition a little bit, and that's kind of what I felt about a 4-week period going into the Indy being the inaugural show. I felt like, man, this could be a good show. You don't know who's going to be competing in it. I mean, you don't know if all the guys from the Australia are going to say, hey, I'm going to go do Indy too. Why not? So, I wasn't going into that show be like, I got this locked, and even after prejudging, I'm not like, I'm the winner, no problem. Like, I'm like, until I got that trophy in my hand, it's not over.
Right. So how did you feel about second place, man? Charles Griffin, he surprised the hell out of me. I think he looked great. I didn't expect that at all.
I saw a lot of videos and stuff, that comes up on Instagram, your Explore page of Charles training, and I'm like, this dude's a beast, and I feel like size, pound for pound, I could hang with anybody in the sport. I think I'm just a bigger frame guy. I think a lot of people are, when they see a picture of me and then they see me in person, they're like, you're way bigger in person. I kind of get that all the time, So when I get on stage, I could kind of expose people a little bit and let my structure outsize that person, and if I have the condition to go with it, I'll be able to hopefully beat him. But Charles looked great, and I saw him backstage. I'm like, this dude's thick, and then he was up there, he was battling it out, and I think it was we had a really good top call out at that show. I think those guys, there's a lot of potential in a lot of them, and some of those are contenders to really knock on the door of a top 10 at Olympia.
What did you weigh on stage at the Indy?
I was pretty big, I think I was in the mid 270s, probably 275, 276.
Okay.
The Indy, same deal as I did for the Arnold. I said, you know what? We had a formula that worked for the Arnold food wise, and I said, let's do it again for the Indy. So I even probably, being a 1-day show, which the Arnold was a 1-day show, but having a little bit earlier prejudging versus like I think noon or whatever we were on the Arnold. You have to time things differently. So obviously, I was up real early in the morning of the show, like 4 a.m., eating a meal and trying to get 2 or 3 meals in before I get on stage, versus like kind of getting up at a normal time and then you having the time to get on stage. So you just have to adjust things to, your body. And I think, getting on Indy was a great opportunity for me to really showcase what I could do.
So what are your plans for the rest of the year now that you've qualified for the Olympia? Obviously, are you going to compete in any other shows or just shut it down till the O?
The plan right now is to shut it down for the O. I think the prep for the Arnold in the Indy was a good prep. I mean, you beat yourself up, so I can use a little bit of rest. We got a family vacation coming up to Cabo here next week, and going to enjoy a little bit of downtime. But I think I'll be ready to start really putting a focus on and Olympia focused training, come June, and that's kind of one of the things is allowing, kind of getting that qualification and then allowing the time to grow a little bit, right after that show, and then from there get ready for the O and try to bring an even improved package to Olympia.
So what are your expectations going into the Olympia placings wise? Where do you see yourself realistically? I know everyone goes to win, but realistically, where would you like to see yourself in the placings?
My best placing at Olympia is 9th place. And I want to definitely beat that. But I think, coming off a top 5 at the Arnold, coming off a good win, kind of creates a momentum for you. And, my goal is going to be in the top 6 or 7 guys. And to me, bodybuilding is not necessarily a sport that, it's kind of like, oh, this team has got it locked. They're the best team in the league. They're going to win. Like, you never know who's going to show up. Somebody gets sick. Somebody get hurt. That's happened a few times. And so sometimes the door opens up and it's there for you for the taking. So I always try to give 100%, make sure I'm ready to do it no matter what and who shows up.
I'm curious to hear a pro bodybuilder's perspective on this. So the 2017 Olympia, how did you feel about the results? Phil Heath beating Big Rami.
There was a lot of controversy on that. And, Big Rami brought a freaky package. You have two totally different physiques. And obviously in a judge sport, you're going to have judges are going to favor one physique over another or one kind of style over another. Rami kind of brings that freak factor that is, kind of undeniable size. You're like, this is crazy. Phil obviously brings a lot prettier physique, and that is, he's very well conditioned. He's a great bodybuilder. Obviously, Mr. Olympia 7 times. So I think you kind of really have to beat the current champ versus just kind of, hey, I look as good, or we're about tied. They're always going to give it to the champ that way.
Right. So do you think you can beat Big Rami if you come in 100% conditioned and Rami doesn't?
I think if that's the case, I think, Rami's got some freak body parts, no doubt. But I think if I bring the 100% package, if the condition's there, I make some improvements to Olympia, I think that's a sure possibility. I mean, I'm going to believe it. I'm going to talk positive. I'm going to confess that, hey, I'm going to be Mr. Olympia. I'm not going to train to be 6th place. I'm going to train to be 1st place.
I agree with you, man. I think conditioning wins shows, and the package that you brought at the Arnold, man, I think that could have won, a show like the Olympia had the other guys not come in with equal conditioning. So you look great, man.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, man.
So you are married to an IFBB Pro, Amanda Latona. So
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about what that's like, just both of you guys being pros.
I always say it's heaven on earth. My wife we're like very much the same, and the fact that we are, she understands me almost better than I understand myself at times, and so she understands the parts of prep and the lack of energy, and she's never like, I want to go out. How come you're tired? How come you're dieting? Like, she's totally cool and like, hey, I get it. She made a lot of sacrifice too, and I'm truly blessed as a man to find such an amazing woman. Like, we really, we don't have arguments. We're not ego-driven people where, I'm right, you're wrong kind of thing. And we have great communication, and it's a true love. And I think anybody that follows us online knows that, we're very much in love and very, we love spending time together. We have businesses together. We travel together with Allmax. And I couldn't have picked a better woman.
Good thing to say. Good thing to say. So is it true that you guys actually met at the Olympia?
We actually met at the Olympia. Yeah. Just to kind of make it a long story short, there was a meet and greet night for the fans, And secretly, I mean, I think everybody in the industry had a crush on my wife at one point. But she was a Flex model bikini search winner, and that cover, that kind of one of the most famous Flex covers. And I remember seeing that a long time ago. I was like, man, she's amazing, But I was like, I never have a chance with a woman like that, Hey, but I was we were all at the meet and greet. I was going to the restroom and I saw her and I was like, I'm just going to stop and say hi and introduce myself. And her mom was there, and I actually talked to her mom first, introduced myself, and then she kind of turned and looked at me and she's like, wow, you look amazing. And I was like, I don't know what to say to this, but I mean, you look amazing. So we kind of connected. Obviously there was like that chemistry right off the bat that you just kind of see in someone's eyes. And then it was kind of cool. A girl that was in line to see my wife, she's like, oh my God, my two favorite pros. Let me get a picture. So to this day, we're still looking for that picture that we took at the Olympia we met, but we haven't found. But I think overall, that set the framework to keep me. I had pursued my wife a little bit. I went overseas on a tour. I'm like, I don't have her number. I kind of did the bonehead thing, didn't get a phone number, and I was like, shit, what do I do? So I sent her a Facebook message, and I just kind of was just myself, just cool, and I said, let's connect, and she sent me her number. We started talking. I flew out for a date, for a lunch date, and I said, I'm going to fly in the morning, fly out at night. I just want to meet you, for lunch. We'd see if this is the real deal. And, a few shots of tequila later, I think we were both like, you know what, we would get married right now. And if we look at it today, if we got married our first date, we would have been totally happy. So,
yeah. So speaking of Flex magazine, you've been on the cover of a few Flexes. How do you feel about the fact there's not going to be a Flex magazine anymore starting in May?
It's a little bit, it's kind of melancholy. You're like, man, like that's the magazine I grew up with reading and kind of the icon of muscle magazines to me. I'm actually still a Flex athlete. I re-signed in March, knowing that they're going to be discontinuing Flex, but they're kind of combining what I know, muscle and fitness and Flex into one. So it's going to be muscle and fitness, and then they're going to have a Flex section into the magazine, kind of roll it in. So I think it might be a good thing. It might get more exposure to kind of a mainstream audience, somebody that's not not likely to pick up a Flex that's got a muscle and fitness and saying, hey, this guy looks good, or I'm a fan of this guy. Just kind of get to know some more people, and that's, I think, the biggest thing you can do as a bodybuilder and your own brand is to get exposure to all kinds of people and hopefully get more fans that way.
So will you still have the opportunity to be on the cover of a magazine like Muscle and Fitness, or do they typically go with more downsized guys for that mainstream deal?
I hope I get a cover. I think that'd be really cool. I think I have a physique and a look that could be a little bit more mainstream than freaky, intimidating. That I think a guy could look at and say, hey, your goals, I want to look like that guy. I think we all train, regardless if you're in a physique competition or classic physique or a bodybuilder, we all train to be as biggest and baddest as we can be. Obviously there's the genetic limitations and different things that come into that role, but I think we all train to be what, like that Arnold statue that we see, or I think everybody that's in a gym have seen an Arnold picture or magazine. We're like, I want to look like that guy. Yep. So it's one thing to have some abs and a good chest and arms, but to be a bodybuilder and have muscle all over that's the beach guy cartoon, the comic, that's everybody's goal.
So you're wearing the Make Bodybuilding Great Again shirt. Talk to me a little bit about the inspiration for that brand.
Obviously it could be a little bit controversial, but my whole point to it was people kept saying bodybuilding's dying. Bodybuilding, it's going away and physique's taking over and all this stuff. And I'm like, it's not dying. Bodybuilding's been always good, but obviously with President Trump and the way the slogan's been lately, the Make America Great Again, I was like, we'll make bodybuilding great again. Let's promote it. Let's make it bigger. Let's, put physiques out there that people want to see. And that was kind of my thought process behind Make Bodybuilding Great Again.
So what's your role in your wife's company, Booty Queen Apparel? You guys run it from home, and do you help fulfill orders? Do you come up with designs yourself, or?
I run the back end, as I said on Shark Tank. I kind of, I'm more of an operations manager to where, I kind of make sure that everything is running between logistic wise, that, the customer service is you got questions or things. We make sure that's going, make sure the website's up running and updated and that kind of stuff. My wife is really the inspiration and the brains behind the brand. She does the designs and, the descriptions and the marketing, and that's her. So we got a really good blend. I'm not I let her definitely take the steering wheel and dictate where it goes. And I just enjoy the part of running the company on the back end, and we have a great team we work with. And that's, one of the things I think, actually, one of the guys that works for us that helps me with my social media and Booty Queen social media, Austin, I'm going to mention his name because he's a big fan of you. And he was he was one that kind of said, you guys need to do something. So I was like, that's a great idea. So that's why he's the inspiration of why we're here right now.
Well, thank you, Austin. I appreciate that, man. So you guys did get a deal on Shark Tank. Did you notice a noticeable difference in the company before and after the deal with the input given by Damon?
Definitely, getting on Shark Tank, they say you have about a 5 to 6 million reach, that initial airing, that, there's a lot of people that get to see you. And I think it was a great exposure for us. I think that kind of just kickstarts anything you're trying to do, brand-wise, product-wise, just getting on that show. But, we were kind of strategic of really wanting to get with Damon or Lori because they're both in the retail industry. They both are in apparel, and they would be the ones that would help kind of take our brand to the next level. And when Damon threw us the offer, I was like, this is who we want. This is great. I think this, it's awesome. So Damon's done a really good job. He's helped us plug into some new, manufacturers, which that's probably 70% of the battle when it comes to a apparel companies. Find the people that can make what you want to do. I mean, we're not a company that can open up our own factory and do all this stuff. We, like I said, we run it out of our house, and we have a small team that we work with, and we have a warehouse and logistic company that does our fulfillment now. And we used to do it out of our house, everything. But as the company grows, you got to just make changes. And Damon's been helping us. Hopefully we're trying to get on HSN and get on some more TV stuff. We were recently on Dr. Oz. So there's a lot of things he's able to plug us into mainstream that we necessarily wouldn't be able to do. I know, we would be able to get the fitness industry targeted, but to get on Dr. Oz, that would have took a lot of work. And I don't think that it would have been a lot of kind of emails and pestering, but it's, Damon says, hey, I got a company, I want to talk about fitness stuff. I'm going to talk about Booty Queen for a little bit. So it's stuff like that he's been really helping us with.
So I want to talk about cars for a minute. You've got a 2003 Cobra. So tell us a little bit about that and some of the modifications you've made to it.
I know you're a Corvette guy, so I got a love for a Corvette. Two American, to me, they're the two American badass cars.
Absolutely.
And, big fan of the Vet and your car and stuff. So, I've always been a Mustang guy, and when I was 18, I got a Cobra, and I was after a few years, I sold it, and I was like, man, it's like one of those cars you just never wish you sold. And for my 30th birthday, I bought a 2003 Cobra, and it's the Terminator, one of the supercharged Cobras. It's probably one of the most iconic Mustangs out there that people kind of recognize. So I'm a little bit of a need for speed, enjoy some adrenaline rush, and enjoy some horsepower. So, I had the car at about 800 horsepower, and then the motor had some issues. So I just said, let's go for that 1,000 mark. So why not? So it's been a process of getting it built. We're doing a big single turbo, motor car, and it's going to be all of 1,000 or more horsepower. So it's cool. I mean, I'm not a guy that goes to the drag strip every weekend, but I like to cruise, and it's going to be a good driver. And occasionally, we'll go to the strip and go test it and have some fun.
Any plans to get any other cool cars in the near future?
I don't know. There's a lot of new Mustangs coming out that are pretty sharp. I love the new Vet, that ZR1. If I had the money, I'd probably go buy that ZR1 that just came out. that broke a lot of records. I have my truck, which I love. That's another vehicle I have kind of tricked out too. It's 2015 F250, and that almost makes 700 horsepower and like 1,400 foot-pounds of torque. So my truck could kind of hang with a lot of, say, stock 5.0 Mustangs or a stock Corvette. It could go nose to nose with them. So it's kind of funny when you got a 7,000 pound truck that could hang with a fast sports car.
Absolutely. Well, sweet, man. I know you got to get going. I appreciate you coming on. It's been a pretty good interview, man. I really appreciate it. We got to do something else in the near future, man.
Absolutely, man. We got to do some more stuff. I appreciate the content you put out, man. You're awesome. I'm a big fan of what you're doing, and I think you have a lot of fans that appreciate it as well. So keep doing it, man. I'm glad to be talking to you and have the friendship we have, and let's do some more stuff.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate it. Have a good trip, man.
You too, brother. Thank you.
See ya.